All right, so if you're an employer in the Netherlands, you know the call I'm talking about. The one where an employee says, "Hey, I'm sick, can't make it in." Seems simple enough, right? Well, not so fast. In the Dutch system, that one little phone call can kick off this huge chain reaction of legal and financial duties that can stick with you for years. So let's dive in and try to navigate this maze together.
So that call comes in, and while you're scrambling to figure out the day's schedule, a legal clock has just started ticking. A big one. The real question is, do you have any idea how long that clock is going to run? I think the answer might just surprise you. And there it is, 104 weeks. That's 2 full years. The moment your employee calls in sick, you, the employer, are now on the hook for a potential 2-year journey. A journey of paying their wages and actively trying to get them back to work. This isn't just a bump in the road. It's a long-term commitment, defined by law. You see, that first call isn't just a heads up. It's like tipping over the first domino. It sets off a whole chain of events, all legally required, that you have to manage. Let's take a look at what happens in that first absolutely critical phase.
So what's wild is that in the Dutch system, sickness, or ziekte, isn't just a medical thing. Nope, it's actually a legal status that has a 104-week timer on it. And for that entire period, the responsibility for your employee's paycheck and their recovery, it lands squarely on your shoulders.
So what exactly do you have to do during these 2 years? Well, it's definitely not a passive role. You have to be an active player in your employee's recovery journey, and the law breaks it down into 2 very specific, very important duties.
And here they are, the 2 big ones. First, you've got the financial piece, continued wage payment, which is called loondoorbetaling. And second, you have the process piece, actively managing their return to work. This follows a really strict legal framework called the Wet-Verbetering Poortwachter, or the Gatekeeper Improvement Act. Let's talk money first. The law says you have to continue paying at least 70% of your employee's last earned wage for that entire 104-week period. Now, keep in mind, a lot of collective labor agreements, or CAOs, actually bump that up to 100% for the first year. But 70% is the absolute floor for 2 years.
Okay, now for the procedural side, and this is where things can get really complicated. The Gatekeeper Act is basically a super strict roadmap with deadlines that you just cannot miss. You can see it's a marathon of reporting and planning. But here's the most important thing to know. Missing just one of these deadlines can result in a massive penalty, like being forced to pay that employee's salary for a whole 3rd year. Yeah, you heard that right.
Let's just be real about what this all adds up to. You've got 2 years of wage payments, plus this heavy, complicated administrative burden. It creates one of the biggest hidden financial risks a business can face. It's an unexpected hit that can be absolutely devastating, especially for smaller companies. So how on earth do you protect your business from this? I mean, it's a potentially crippling expense. Well, thankfully, there's a tool that's designed specifically for this exact problem: sickness absence insurance. Sickness absence insurance, or ziekteverzuimverzekering, is pretty much your financial shield here. Its main job is to cover the direct cost of that 70% wage you have to keep paying. You can even tweak it with a deductible period. Maybe you cover the first 10 or 20 days to help manage the cost. But what's really crucial is that these policies often come with expert support to help you navigate that whole Gatekeeper Act correctly. It basically moves the biggest financial risk off your books and onto an insurer. Okay, deep breath. You've navigated the first 2 years. But what happens if, after 104 weeks, your employee still isn't able to come back to work? This is a huge turning point. The responsibility starts to shift from you to the government, and a whole new high-stakes assessment kicks off. So, after 104 weeks of sickness, we switch to a new legal term, Arbeidsongeschiktheid, which basically means disability. At this point, the government's employee benefits agency, the UWV, steps in. They do this really thorough assessment to figure out what the employee can still do and what they could earn now. Then they compare that to their old salary, and that determines if they get a long-term benefit. And this number right here, this changes everything. 35%. If the UWV decides an employee is less than 35% disabled, which means they think the person can still earn more than 65% of their old salary, they get 0 WIA benefits from the government. I'll say it again, absolutely nothing. It's a really hard, really critical cutoff. Now, for the people who do cross that 35% threshold, the WII splits into 2 different paths.
The IVA is for people who are almost completely disabled with pretty much no chance of recovery. They get a benefit that's 75% of their last wage. Simple enough. The WGA is for, well, for everybody else, partially disabled or fully disabled but with a chance to get better. And this is where it gets complicated again because WGA benefits can be a lot lower.
You see, the WGA system can create a brand new problem. Even with a government benefit, an employee's income can just fall off a cliff. This creates what's known as the WGA gap. It's a source of huge insecurity for your employee, but it's a problem that you, as the employer, can actually help solve. So let's say your employee gets approved for a WGA benefit. You might think, great, they're covered. But that's often not the case at all. If they don't use at least half of the earning capacity the government thinks they still have, their benefit can plummet to a fraction of the minimum wage. We're talking a massive financial shock. This chart shows the problem perfectly. On the left, you've got the original salary. Now look at the middle bar, the potential WGA benefit. See that huge drop? That's the income gap. It can be massive. But then look at the third bar. That shows the solution. Supplementary insurance, offered by you, can actually bridge that gap and bring them back to a secure income. And these are the specific tools you can use to do it. WGA gap insurance is what fills that income gap we just looked at. WI accident insurance is super important for your higher earners because government benefits are capped at a certain salary. And there's even something called WI compensation insurance that can provide a safety net for those employees who just miss that 35% cutoff, the ones who get no government help at all. Offering these things can make you a way more attractive employer. We've talked about the risks for the first 2 years and for your employees' long-term income. But there's one last really big strategic choice you have to make as an employer. This one is about your long-term financial risk for the WGA. Okay, so by default, every employer in the Netherlands is publicly insured through the UWV. You pay a premium into the system, and in return, the UWV handles the WGA benefits for your former employees. But you have another option. You can actually opt out and become what's called an eigen risicodrager, which means you become a self-insurer for the WGA risk. This table really breaks down the trade-offs. With the public system, you pay your premium, and the UWV deals with the risk and the process. It's hands-off. But if you become a self-insurer, you stop paying that premium. The catch? You are now directly responsible for paying WGA benefits and managing reintegration for up to 10 years. The bottom line is you get way more control and maybe lower costs, but you also take on all the risk yourself. So it really all boils down to a strategic choice. Are you the kind of business that prefers the set-it-and-forget-it certainty of a public premium? Or do you want the control and the potential savings that come from managing this risk privately, usually with the help of a specialized insurer who can offer more tailored support? So, there you have it. From that one simple phone call to a potential 10-year liability, the Dutch sickness system is, well, it's a maze for employers. We've given you the map, we've shown you the risks, and the tools to get through it. The only real question left is, have you stress-tested your own strategy? Is your business truly prepared for the journey? Because sooner or later, that phone is going to ring.